what if we're being studied? Like not in like some creepy sci-fi way, but by something so advanced that it sees us the way we might see, I don't know, ants. Fascinating, but not quite on our level. The question that Dr. Garry Nolan, he brings up a lot. And today we're going deep into his work on this very topic. You've given us a stack of his interviews, presentations, all sorts of stuff. So let's dive in.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating idea that we might be on the radar of something that operates on timescales we can't even fathom.
Right. Like Dr. Nolan talks about civilizations potentially millions of years old. Like to them, million years is like us waiting a year. It just blows my mind. But before we go full mind blown, who is this guy? He's not your average UFO enthusiast, right?
No, not at all. Dr. Garry Nolan's a tenured professor at Stanford, a top-tier scientist. I mean, he's got a serious reputation. And he got pulled into UAP research almost by accident. The government asked him to study people claiming to have been harmed by encounters, think physical effects, neurological stuff.
So he's coming at this from a medical and scientific angle. That's got to be a bit different from, the grainy photos and shaky videos we usually see. So what did he actually find when he started looking into these cases?
Well, at first he was skeptical, which, understandable. But then he started noticing a pattern in the brain scans, specifically MRIs. They showed unusual features in some of these individuals, not tumors or damage, but differences, particularly in a part of the brain called the caudate putamen.
Okay. I'm going to need a little ELI 5 on that one. Caudate, what now?
Right, sorry. Think of the caudate putamen as a sort of central hub in your brain. It helps process information, and it plays a role in intuition, that gut feeling you get sometimes. In these individuals, this area looked different, more developed. And here's the kicker. It seemed to run in families. Like, it might be inherited.
So are we talking about people being literally wired differently, maybe more sensitive to whatever's behind these UAPs?
It's a question Dr. Nolan asks, and it's one we're still exploring. But his work doesn't stop there. He also analyzed physical materials, supposedly from UAPs.
We're going from brains to, what, pieces of metal and stuff?
Exactly. Things like metallic fragments, strange alloys. Dr. Nolan used all the high-tech tools. Isotope analysis, metallurgy, to break down what these materials are made of, where they might have come from. And some of the results were, let's just say they defied explanation.
Give me an example. What kind of stuff are we talking about that has a Stanford professor scratching his head?
One that Dr. Nolan mentions frequently is a layered bismuth magnesium sample. Now, on its own, that might not sound too crazy, but according to Dr. Hal Puthoff, another physicist who's been looking into UAPs, this kind of material could potentially be used to build incredibly small, advanced waveguides.
Waveguides, like for radios and stuff.
Think more high-tech. Waveguides can be used to direct and manipulate all sorts of electromagnetic waves. Terahertz frequencies, for example. We're talking tech with applications in everything from faster communication to medical imaging. The fact that this material, potentially from a UAP, could be used to miniaturize those waveguides is a huge deal. It suggests technology way beyond what we're currently capable of.
So we've got people with potentially unique brains. We've got materials that seem to break the rules of physics, starting to sound like the opening scene of a sci-fi movie. But this is real science being done by respected researchers. Where do we go from here? What are some of the common threads in Dr. Nolan's work? What's he seeing over and over again?
Well, one of the biggest takeaways is the sheer technological sophistication of what he's encountering. He talks about UAPs potentially being hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ahead of us technologically. Think about that. We're struggling to get to Mars, and whatever's behind these UAPs might be zipping between star systems.
My brain's already starting to hurt a little. Okay, so advanced tech, got it. But is Dr. Nolan willing to say, like point blank, that it's aliens?
He's very careful about that. He doesn't like to jump to conclusions, always wants to stick to the data. But he does talk a lot about the possibility of non-human intelligence, something not from this planet.
That's got to be tough for a scientist to even consider, right? I mean, everything we know about the universe tells us it's vast, but we've never found solid proof of anything else out there.
Right. And that's where Dr. Nolan's work gets really interesting. He challenges a lot of assumptions. He talks about how we might be looking for the wrong things, focusing too much on radio signals, like with SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
So instead of listening for a hello from outer space, maybe we should be paying more attention to what's already right in front of us.
That's exactly what Dr. Nolan suggests. He says the evidence might be in the materials we're finding, in the encounters people are reporting. We might be missing the wow signal because it's not a signal at all, but something far more complex and nuanced.
Yeah, it's a real shift in thinking, isn't it? Instead of straining our ears for some distant signal, what if the evidence is right here, woven into the fabric of our reality?
It's like we're looking for a needle in a haystack, but maybe the needle's a completely different shape, you know?
Exactly. Dr. Nolan, he brings up an interesting point. If a civilization is millions of years ahead of us, their technology might be so advanced that it appears as, I don't know, magic miracles to us. We wouldn't even recognize it as technology.
Okay, that's a little freaky.
Yeah.
So what are some other ideas that Dr. Nolan puts forward? I mean, we've covered the advanced tech and the possibility of non-human intelligence. Anything else that really stands out? One thing that comes up a lot is the concept of timescales. We think in terms of, human lifespans, maybe centuries of history. But if we're dealing with beings that have been around for millions of years, our entire existence might seem like a blink of an eye to them.
That makes our obsession with instant gratifications seem a little silly, doesn't it? I mean, if they're that patient, waiting a few thousand years for us to figure things out wouldn't be a big deal.
Right. And it also makes you wonder about their motivations. Why are they here? What are they doing? Dr. Nolan suggests that they might be studying us, observing our development, maybe even nudging us in certain directions.
They're not nudging us like some cosmic puppet master. That's a little creepy.
I know it sounds far-fetched, but think about it. If they have technology that can manipulate space and time, what's to stop them from influencing our evolution?
Okay, I'm officially creeped out now, but let's bring it back to something a little more concrete. You mentioned that Dr. Nolan sometimes talks about, specific cases that have really stuck with him.
Yes, he often uses specific examples to illustrate his points about advanced technology and non-human intelligence.
Okay, tell me about one. Give me something that'll convince me that this isn't just some theoretical thought experiment.
Well, one case he often brings up is the 1977 Council Bluffs, Iowa incident. Multiple witnesses, including police officers, reported seeing a blinking craft descend from the sky, leaving behind a pile of molten slag when it took off.
Police officers, molten slag. That sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And what's even more intriguing is that some of the slag was reportedly analyzed and found to contain unusual isotope ratios that don't naturally occur on Earth.
Isotope ratios. That's getting a little technical. What does that mean in plain English?
Think of isotopes as variations of elements, like different flavors of the same atom. By looking at the ratio of these isotopes, we can learn about where a material came from. In this case, the ratios found in the slag were unlike anything we've ever seen in naturally occurring materials on Earth.
So we have physical evidence analyzed by scientists that suggests that something truly out of the ordinary happened. That's pretty hard to ignore.
Exactly. And this leads us to another fascinating aspect of Dr. Nolan's work, the possibility that some people might be more sensitive to these phenomena than others.
So not everyone is wired to see UFOs, basically.
Not necessarily see them, but maybe perceive them in some way. Remember those unusual brain features we talked about earlier in the caudate putamen?
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Nolan wonders if that could be a sign of a predisposition to sensing something that most people don't.
Like a sixth sense for the weird stuff.
Exactly. He suggests that there might be a kind of a spectrum of awareness with some people being more sensitive to these energies or intelligences than others.
Okay, I can see how that would explain why some people have, these intense encounters while others see nothing. It's starting to feel like we're peeling back layers of a really complex onion here.
That's a good analogy. And as we peel back these layers, we start to see that there's much more to this phenomenon than just lights in the sky. It touches on everything from advanced physics to the nature of consciousness itself.
And as fascinating as all of this is, I can't help but wonder, what are the potential downsides? Is there anything that worries Dr. Nolan about all of this?
Well, one of his biggest concerns is the potential for disinformation and secrecy to hinder scientific progress. He's spoken out about the need for more transparency from governments and the military when it comes to UAP information.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
How can we get to the bottom of this if everyone's keeping secrets.
Right. He argues that open scientific inquiry is the only way to truly understand what we're dealing with.
And what about the potential for harm? I mean, some of these encounters sound pretty intense, even traumatic.
That's another area where Dr. Nolan is urging caution. He stresses the need for more research into the potential effects of UAT encounters on human health and well-being. He's particularly concerned about the possibility of psychological harm and the need for proper support for those who've had these experiences.
It's like we're stepping into a whole new world, one that's both exciting and potentially dangerous.
Exactly. And that's why Dr. Nolan emphasizes the need for careful ethical considerations as we move forward. He believes that we need to proceed with both curiosity and caution, always mindful of the potential consequences of our actions.
So we've got potential for amazing technological breakthroughs, mind-blowing encounters, but also the risk of disinformation, harm, and maybe even something we haven't even thought of yet. Sounds like humanity has a lot to figure out.
It's a lot to process, for sure. But I think that's what makes Dr. Nolan's work so important. He's not just presenting a bunch of wild theories. He's providing a framework for understanding this phenomenon in a way that's both intellectually rigorous and ethically responsible.
Okay. I need a moment to absorb all of that. It's like my brain is doing a system reboot.
I understand. We'll be back in a moment to explore the final takeaways from Dr. Nolan's work and discuss what it all means for you, the listener.
All right. System reboot complete. But I have a feeling this conversation is about to push it to its limits again. We've covered a lot of ground, advanced tech, non-human intelligence, this idea that we might be on some kind of cosmic test. But where does it all lead? What does it mean for us here and now?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If Dr. Nolan's work is pointing us towards a reality where we're not alone, where there are intelligences out there that dwarf our own. I mean, it changes everything: our history, our future, our whole understanding of what it means to be human.
Yeah, I've got to admit, it's a lot to take in. Part of me just wants to, go back to worrying about my to-do list, but another part of me is, kind of electrified by this. Like,
Well,
what if this is like the biggest story in human history, and we're just starting to glimpse it?
it might very well be, and I think that's what Dr. Nolan is trying to get across. This isn't just some fringe science. It's potentially a paradigm shift. It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the universe and our place in it.
Okay, so big picture stuff, got it. But how does this filter down to everyday life? I mean, most of us aren't analyzing exotic metals or having these close encounters. Does any of this really affect us directly?
I think it does in a couple of ways. First, it challenges that idea of human exceptionalism, that
Right.
we're the center of everything. We're so used to thinking in terms of, us versus them, whether it's other countries or even just people with different beliefs. But if we're not alone, if there's something else out there that's way ahead of us, it forces us to reevaluate our place in the cosmos.
So instead of competing all the time, maybe we should be focusing on what unites us.
Exactly. Dr. Nolan talks about the need for humanity to come together, to pool our resources and knowledge to meet this challenge. Because let's face it, if we are being studied, if there is some kind of intelligence test going on, we're probably not doing so well right now. We're divided. We're fighting over resources. We're messing up our planet.
Yeah, not exactly a stellar report card. So what can we do about it? Dr. Nolan, he doesn't leave us hanging, does he? He must have some ideas about how we move forward.
He does. First and foremost, he advocates for more research, more transparency. He wants governments to release what they know about UAPs, to allow scientists to study the data openly. He also wants to see more funding for serious research, not just the kind of stuff that gets dismissed as UFO hunting.
Makes sense. But it's not just about scientists and labs, is it? There are people out there having these encounters right now. What about them?
Yeah, Dr. Nolan's he's a big advocate for listening to those experiences, for taking them seriously. He wants to see better protocols for documenting and analyzing encounters, for providing support to people who've been affected. He believes there's valuable information to be gleaned from those who've had these firsthand experiences.
It's like he's saying, pay attention, folks. This is real. It's happening, and we need to figure it out together.
That's a great way to put it. And he goes even further. He talks about the need to expand our consciousness, to develop a cosmic consciousness that recognizes our interconnectedness with everything in the universe. He believes that this is essential if we want to interact with other intelligences, whether they're friendly or not.
So it's not just about building bigger telescopes or faster spaceships. It's about evolving as a species.
Exactly. Dr. Nolan, he challenges us to think bigger, to look beyond our immediate concerns and embrace a more expansive view of reality. And he believes that the UAP phenomenon is a catalyst for this kind of evolution.
Well, if nothing else, this conversation has definitely expanded my thinking. I'm starting to see the world and the universe in a whole new light.
That's the power of Dr. Nolan's work. It opens up possibilities, it asks hard questions, and it challenges us to be more than we thought we could be.
So to wrap this all up, what's the main message you want listeners to take away from this deep dive?
That the UAP phenomenon is real. It's significant,
Yeah.
and it has profound implications for all of us. It's time to stop dismissing it as fantasy or science fiction and start engaging with it seriously with both curiosity and responsibility.
And maybe, just maybe, if we rise to the occasion, we'll pass Dr. Nolan's intelligence test. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Keep looking up, keep asking questions, and keep an open mind. You never know what you might discover.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge you.